I thank the Senator from Virginia. I thank the Senator from New Hampshire for your great leadership on this issue. And just talking about SNAP, very briefly, 50% of all children in the United States at some point in their life are going to be on SNAP, are going to need some help to eat so that they can avoid hunger. 50% of all children. So we're playing games with a program that's central to the lives of millions of families across this country. And we're playing out this entire drama in an all too familiar scene. For the third time in just 2 years of the Trump presidency, we are once more in the midst of a government shutdown. It is important to remember how we got here. In December, the Senate Majority Leader brought to the floor a temporary funding bill to keep the federal government open. It passed this chamber unanimously. Everyone, all 100 senators at the time, agreed that at the very least, it was important to keep the government open while we debate the issue of border security and immigration reform. So why on earth is the government shut down? Well, simply because President Trump has decided to hold the government hostage because he didn't get funding for a costly, ineffective wall. Shutting down the government over billions of dollars for a wall is like canceling the World Series because your team didn't make it. At nearly 3 weeks into the Trump shutdown, we can track and see the devastating effects of the president's hostage-taking. 800,000 federal employees are going without pay, and the longer this goes on, the more their worries mount. Mortgages, student loan payments, car payments, heating bills, food on the table. President Trump may operate from crisis to crisis, but countless American families are living paycheck to paycheck. I have heard from many of the individuals and families who are part of the approximately 7,800 federal workers across Massachusetts, and they are rightfully anxious about how they will make ends meet. 22% of federal employees in Massachusetts are veterans. 22%. So how does Donald Trump repay thousands of individuals who have served and sacrificed for their country? By not paying them. And let's be clear about who these workers are. They are janitors, cafeteria workers, secretaries, security guards. Work Incorporated is the largest employer of individuals with disabilities in New England under the Federal Ability One program. It employs hundreds of individuals with significant disabilities who work across federal facilities in the region. But because of the Trump shutdown, they aren't going to work. And if they are not working, they are not being paid. And they are not providing the critical services which are needed for families in New England and across the whole country. We've gone from Mexico paying for the border wall to Americans going without pay. That's how absurd the president is being in terms of who ultimately winds up paying the price for his campaign promises. And what's more, the Trump shutdown reaches beyond workers and empty paychecks. The shutdown of the Environmental Protection Agency means almost all of the 516 employees in EPA Region 1, which includes New England, have been furloughed. That has halted cleanup of rivers and other brownfields all across our region. It endangers the water, the air, all of the work that's done to protect the 13 million people who live in New England. It means the federal investigation into the deadly September 13th natural gas explosions and fires in Merrimack Valley is suspended, and residents are left waiting for answers. The Trump shutdown is shutting down justice for the residents of Lawrence and Andover and North Andover because that investigation is now suspended. And we are heading for absolute catastrophe if the shutdown stretches on much longer, as millions of vulnerable low-income Americans relying on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, may have had their benefits cut severely. That is going to put 764,000 of the poorest Massachusetts residents at risk of hunger. President Trump may think it's okay to furlough workers, but he can't furlough hunger. He can't furlough dirty drinking water. He can't furlough pipeline accidents. We need an open government to prevent these things from happening. In just a few hours, we'll hear from the president. He will go on TV tonight and present a fear and hate-ridden case about a manufactured national security emergency at our border. The irony is, the longer that President Trump extends this government shutdown, the more insecure and unsafe American families become because federal workers aren't there to protect them against the things that they work every day to ensure that each and every family in our country are spared the pain that otherwise would be inflicted. So, the Department of Homeland Security is one of the agencies that the president has shut down. An outsized number of Transportation Security Agency screeners and agents who screen and apprehend dangerous suspects at airports are calling in sick rather than work without pay. Some have even quit. And sadly, our own American president is the architect of this crisis. The truth is that there are more Americans today going without their paycheck than immigrants who illegally crossed the southern border in the past 2 years. Trump has completely manufactured this emergency. But there is an impending one if this Trump shutdown continues and Americans are left without government services. So let's end this. To my Republican colleagues, let's pass the bipartisan legislation to reopen the government. You supported it before. Support it again. Raise your voices. Let's put people back to work, and let's provide certainty for the American public. And once again, I thank Senator Kaine, Senator Shaheen, for your leadership in organizing this very important colloquy.